Bonjour et bienvenue. Hello and welcome to Straight Through the Channel. Today we are going to learn how to express possession. And when I say possession, I mean it in a broad grammatical sense. So no spiritualism or objectification involved here. There are 4 ways to express possession in French, and you will notice, thanks to my amazing examples right here, that one of these structures does not have an English equivalent. So first, let's have a look at possessive adjectives. For singular masculine, you have mon, ton, son, notre, votre, leur. For singular feminine, you have ma, ta, sa, notre, votre, leur. And finally, for the plural, whether it's masculine or feminine, you have mes, tes, ses, nos, vos, leurs. Now, we have touched on this in the introduction series when we learned to talk about family and pets. Possessive adjectives have to agree with the noun they relate to, and they have to agree with that noun in gender, masculine and feminine, and number, singular or plural. So, to translate her book, we need to look at the person, and then we need to look into the gender and number of book, livre, which is masculine singular. So here we will be using son livre. So in French, the person who owns the book does not matter, and I mean that in a purely grammatical sense. And actually, if we translate son livre back into English, we have 2 possible translations. Either her book or his book. Another example, in English, if I talk about my cousin, you won't be able to tell their gender, while the possessive adjective in French gives us information. Now, believe it or not, but French people do not like mouthfuls, so we like to avoid having 2 vowel sounds next to each other, so at the end of one word and at the start of the next. And when I say we like to avoid, I mean it's an actual grammatical rule that we have to abide by. So we use mon, ton and son in front of vowel sounds. For example, mon erreur. And you can hear that I pronounce the N and carry this N sound to the next word, which kind of makes it sound like the noun starts with an N. Ton oreille. As we don't pronounce the H in French, words starting in H and a vowel sound are also preceded by mon, ton or son. For example, son histoire. Unless, of course, they are not what we call mute H. For example, you cannot say l'anche, but you would say la hanche, which means you will need to use the usual singular feminine adjective here, ma hanche. Now let's have a look at the possessive de. And I am sorry I am sticking with my boring book example, but sometimes the simplest examples are the best to demonstrate grammatical rules, so please bear with me. Whenever there is an apostrophe or an apostrophe S to indicate possession in English, you will use de in French. However, the order of the nouns is reversed. Sophie's book becomes le livre de Sophie. The neighbour's cat becomes le chat de mes voisins. My brother's birthday becomes l'anniversaire de mon frère. So the possessive de is nice and easy to use with proper nouns, such as Sophie, or possessive adjectives. But it gets a little trickier in front of nouns because we have to use definite articles in front of nouns in French. So you would translate the teacher's book as le livre de le professeur, and just saying that made me cringe because it is unfortunately very wrong. Le cannot follow de without contracting into a smaller word, du. The same way de lait becomes des whenever they are next to each other. You will notice that L apostrophe and la stay the same in front of de. Now let's talk about possessive pronouns. The word mine, when used to describe ownership, has 4 translations in French depending on whether what we're talking about is singular, plural, feminine or masculine. So to translate this book is hers, first we'll have a look at the right person, and then we'll go back to having a look at our noun book, livre, which is still, thankfully, masculine and singular. So we will use le sien. Ce livre est le sien. Let's just have a look at another example quickly. These are your sister's shoes. Where are yours? So here we are talking about shoes, chaussures, which is a feminine noun used as a plural form in that example. To translate yours in that particular example, we will use les tiennes. Last but not least, let's talk about the possessive a, which is used with what we call a stressed pronoun. And I don't mean that our pronoun is anxious, but I mean that it is used to emphasize something. So the stressed pronouns, or pronoms toniques in French, are moi, toi, lui, elle, nous, vous, eux, elle. So to translate this book is hers using that structure, we will say ce livre est à elle. And you can notice that this structure really is used to emphasize the person who has ownership of the object. And here I am using object in a literal sense because this structure is often used with actual objects. So it doesn't matter whether the noun is feminine, masculine, singular or plural, we will always use the same structure. So now you know how to use the 4 ways to express possession. And before we finish, I just want to mention the differences between the last 2 structures that we have seen. Although they are interchangeable, there are a few nuances between the possessive pronouns and the use of a with a stressed pronoun. So I am giving you a few examples for you to try and understand the nuances a bit. However, there are very slight nuances, so don't worry if you don't totally guess it. And I think that's enough for today. Hope I haven't tired you out too much and that you still enjoyed this video. Merci et à bientôt!